Alrighty, so the collab live stream has ended, and we went over the patch notes a little bit on stream. If you want to be a part of the stream in the future and watch the stuff live as it happens or whatever, feel free to subscribe so that way you get notified whenever we do streams. But either way, we are obviously getting the brand new Overlord collab, which is pretty awesome. I think, honestly, all of the stuff looks really, really cool, very, very interesting. All four of the characters seem very good. Maybe Cocytus isn't like super interesting because he is a PvE only unit, but overall, the three characters that we're getting that can be used in PvP seem insanely strong on paper, at least. We did get to see a little bit of gameplay from the PvE side of things, from the live stream itself, which you know how the devs live streams typically go with PvP, but overall, the characters do seem very cool. We looked over the patch notes and stuff. We'll definitely be looking at some of that stuff as well. But it seems very solid overall as a collab in its entirety. I would say that this collab looks way better than the AOT collab. There was a lot of comments about that in the stream. People were saying that they really screwed up with AOT, but this one seems to be redeeming itself. Yeah, I know a lot of people are probably going to be wanting Albedo because she is the waifu for this one. But either way, let's maybe hop into some of these characters. I think this is the end of this, or is it going to show? Yeah, I think it's so. It does the little Ainz thing. So let's hop in and maybe actually look at some of these characters, and I'll give you some of the translations and stuff. Alrighty, so hopping over to the patch note side of things, we can look at some of the characters and everything. Obviously, there's a lot of text and stuff. Modern units just in general have a lot going on with them. So let's go over Ainz first. We have the translations right here from Kane over in the 7DS Leaks Discord, so shout out to him. But we have the passive is Ruler's Authority. For every unknown ally participating in battle, increases the unit's basic stats by 10%. When an unknown ally's damages an enemy, apply a mark of death or death mark to the enemy. When the unit damages an enemy with a single target skill that has 4 stacks of death mark in PvP, apply 1 death pronouncement to the enemy that activates after 1 turn. The death marks are decreased damage dealt by attacks and AoE ultimates. Scaled by ultimate level of the unit, so he is unfortunately going to scale off the ultimate, but his passive is, which is really dumb. Don't like that, but it is what it is. Death pronouncement is at the end of the turn, apply damage by 100% of the unit's max HP. So basically, he's kind of like an Estarossa, a Berserk Estarossa from the Demon team, but for unknowns, where he basically is going to attack with AoEs and stuff, or just attacks in general. And your allies can do it as well, and you're going to apply these death mark stacks to them. Once you reach 4 of those, you can hit them with a single target skill, which his single target skill actually does more damage depending on how many death marks are already on the enemy, and that is going to end up putting on death pronouncement, which will basically just straight up kill the unit at the end of the turn. So the death pronouncement we did see in the PvP showcase, which you might be able to see somewhere in here. It's actually a red debuff that gets applied, and with it being a red debuff, you can cleanse it off. We might end up watching some of the PvP in just a minute, but you'll be able to see it maybe there. His Holy Relic is Ainz's Staff, and for every debuff applied to the enemy, increases allies' base stats by 3%, maximum of 5 times, so that's a 15% basic stat increase. His first skill is Death Quartet. Inflict declaration damage, and then that is the one. It's a single target. It's going to apply or do 40% increased damage for every death mark. Dark Blaster is the second skill, and it is inflicts damage equal to 300% of attack of all enemies, and applies a debuff that decreases attack-related stats by 20%. So honestly, I mean, it's an AoE, which is going to be used to get his passive sort of procced a little bit more, but overall, this seems like a pretty mid skill. Not super excited about this one specifically, but his overall kit and everything seems pretty strong. His ultimate is Grasp Heart. It honestly looks really cool. You've seen it in that beginning trailer. But inflicts declaration damage by 975% of attack on a single enemy, so it's a single target ultimate, which is a little weird for a PvP sort of based unit. By the way, this passive isn't locked only to PvP. You can still apply death marks and everything like that to enemies, but you won't be able to put death pronouncement on enemies. That part is PvP only. But back to the ultimate. When the hero or when the unit is participating in battle in PvP, for every death mark applied to the enemy, reduces damage taken by 7% from the enemy's attacks and AoE ultimates. So, pretty solid overall. He's kind of like maybe a little bit more supporty. The single target obviously could do some big damage once you get a couple of stacks out on everybody. But the real kicker here is Albedo. Albedo is pretty insane. Albedo's passive is, at the start of the turn, apply absolute defense, which is reduced damage taken by 50%, to the unit for 1 turn. When the unit is assuming a stance, increases the unit's base stats by 20%, and when the unit is attacked at enemy turn, apply buff that increases attack-related stats by 10% for 3 turns, maximum of 5 times. When the unit is not damaged, apply a debuff that increases damage taken by 40% to all enemies for 1 turn. When the unit's stance effect is removed, applies buff that increases attack-related stats by 20% for 2 turns to unknown allies, so it's an ally-based buff, and for every unknown ally in the battlefield, increases the unit's base stats by 7%. So, that is quite a lot to take in. She seems to get really, really tanky. Plus, if we look at her other stuff, here's the Holy Relic. For every buff applied to the unit, decreases damage taken by 8%, maximum of 4 times, maximum of 4 stacks. So she has like a little bit of an amplify thing going on, because if we look at her stance in a second, you'll see why. Her first skill is Pillar of Muspelheim, I forget how to pronounce that one. Inflicts damage by 450% of attack to a single target, and apply debuff that decreases damage dealt by 80%, so she lowers damage dealt. But the kicker is this second skill, the Untouchable. Assume a stance that taunts the enemy and inflicts amplify damage by 450% of attack, or 450% when attacked for 2 turns. So it is a counter stance that has Amplify on top of it, which is insane, because you're probably going to be running Nanashi anyway, so if you have the Nanashi buffs on, plus some of these other passives and everything applying buffs to you, this thing is going to hit really hard. She's insane. Her ultimate is True Hatred, applies buff to the enemy that increases critical chance by 50% and critical damage by 130% for 2 turns, and inflicts suppress damage by 500% of attack to all enemies. So I'm pretty sure on global, suppress is Quell, which is, I can't remember exactly what it is. It's increased damage dealt by, I think it's 40% per stance effect applied to the hero. So you'll want to be in your stance when you use her ultimate, kind of like Deanne's ultimate or Green Sariel's, for example. So she just seems really insane overall. Obviously, you can see the, it looks like the critical damage that you're going to get increased here from the ultimate. The crit damage starts at 30 or 60% and goes up to 130, and then the crit chance is 50% at 6/6 and goes down to 5%, which is quite a bit lower, but I guess it is what it is. That's pretty typical for characters nowadays. Shalltear is the 3rd unit, Shalltear Bloodfallen. Passive is Hunger of Blood, or Hunger for Blood, sorry. She's a little bit more of like a lifesteal-ish based unit, but she doesn't actually have like lifesteal, I don't think, like cards, which is good because lifesteal cards are pretty bad. But for every unknown ally in the battlefield, increases the unit's base stats by 7%. When the unit damages an enemy for the enemy, applies buff that increases HP related stats by 7%, maximum of 3 stacks. And at the start of the ally's turn, if the unit has 3 stacks of the buff, applies Frenzy to the unit for 1 turn. Frenzy increases attack related stats by 50%, and reduces defense-related stats by 30%. So she gains attack, she loses defense, so she's going to be hitting harder, but she can be easier to kill. When the buff is removed, regenerates 40% of max HP. So she does get that for 1 turn. So she's going to heal right after that. It's going to be tough to kill her, I think. But, well, I mean, maybe not tough to kill her. Like, if you can kill her during the Frenzy turn, that'd be great. But after that, she's going to heal a lot back. Plus, her other skills are going to help her heal. So, on top of that, when the unit is damaging an enemy with an AoE skill, apply Bleed to the unit for 2 turns. So she does have an AoE infect skill, and then her other skill is exploitation damage to all enemies. So an AoE, and exploitation is doubles the damage to the enemy that has bleed and ×2 critical damage. So that's going to be really strong as well. Her Holy Relic here is when the unit damages an enemy with bleed, heals the allies HP by 30% of the damage dealt to the enemy. So a lot of HP gaining going on from how much damage she's dealing here. The ultimate is Crimson Valkyrie. Apply buff to the enemy that increases all stats by 30% for 2 turns and inflicts damage by 600% of attack to all enemies and life steals 30% of the damage dealt. So 30% all stats is quite crazy. I can only assume that stacks pretty low. On 1/6 is 5% all the way up to 30, and yeah, that's the only thing that seems to scale off of that one, so nothing too crazy. All of these units, by the way, are unknown. It seems like the main 3 here are going to be usable in every game mode. Cocytus is a PvE only character that does not work in Demonic Beast, just like with previous, PvE, collab characters. But he's maybe the weakest out of the whole group, but PvE characters can be pretty nice too. Cocytus is passive Berserker of the Glacier in PvE. When the unit uses a skill and damages the enemy, removes all debuff stacks to the allies, or stacked to the allies, and for every debuff removed, apply buff that increases max HP by 8% for 3 turns, and it stacks up to 5 times. Now that I think about it, he could actually be kind of interesting for like a Purgatory Bond thing, increasing max HP. That could be kind of cool. Obviously, you'd need to fight someone who's putting a lot of debuffs on you, but I don't know, could be kind of cool. Holy Relic is Artifact of Phrasmar. In PvE, when the unit uses a skill, apply buffs to all allies that increases all stats by 10% for 2 turns. I'm not 100% sure. Somebody on the stream pointed out that this might be able to be stacked, and an all stat increase is pretty insane. So I'm not going to say that he's like the Kizuna 2.0 or like on Kizuna's level perchance, but he does seem to be pretty strong overall for like PvE stuff. So free unit could be kind of cool to use. His skill 1 is Continuous Cleave, which is a single target amplify skill, and then Breath of Nibelheim, Nibelheim maybe, is an AoE detonate skill, and then his ultimate is the same as AM Melee or Raftalia or Echidna, where it increases your basic stats by 50% and then deals damage. So overall, a pretty strong lineup of characters. The banner itself, by the way, actually isn't like super bloated, and overall I have to say the banner looks pretty good. You have a 0.25% chance to pull the actual collab characters. The units in the banner, obviously there's a couple of like coin shop units in here that are pretty crappy. Blue Hawk and Oslo being on here is kind of weird, but I guess because Blue Hawk and Oslo, Blue Camilla, and Green Ludociel are all like kind of limited characters that aren't on a lot of banners, this is actually like a halfway decent time. You might be able to pick them up for some extra box CC or whatever from this banner, which is kind of cool. Obviously, like I said, the coin shop characters are pretty uninspiring. Red Excalibur Arthur is on a lot of banners nowadays, but Nanashi is obviously like a really good backliner for the team, so him being on the banner is good. And you have Green Sariel and Red Tarmiel on here, which, I mean, honestly isn't nothing to scoff at. Those are great characters to have just in general. So overall, it is a 600 banner. You do get to choose one at the 600 mark, of course. 4 new characters being released is a little scary, maybe. I have to spend a lot of gems and everything, but overall, I would say the actual lineup of characters is looking very, very solid. Looking through some of the patch notes very quickly, obviously we have the basic info here. We've got new bundles and everything you can buy. I think this is a subscription bundle actually, which is kind of cool. I do like the subscription bundles. We are getting a login bonus. You do get a free multis worth of tickets on the first 2 days, and then you get 100 diamonds spaced out over the next 2 weeks after the free tickets. So that's nice. You get 100 diamonds. You do get a second free multi from the special missions, and you get a free copy of Cocytus, which is great. We do have a bingo event here. They did show off in the live stream. They had like this diamond payback event. I think we can probably find it down here somewhere if I had to guess. Yeah, there's a diamond payback event, and they showed the fact that there was a Holy Relic box at the 900 mark. A lot of people were really scared that that was going to be, one of the Holy Relics for these collab characters locked behind sort of like spending gems. Luckily, that is not the case. There are 4 Holy Relic boxes that we get from the collab events themselves, so that is just an extra box that you can use to get like an old collab character's Holy Relic if you don't have them already. So we do get a bingo event, pretty typical rewards from this, but you are going to get 2 of the Holy Relic boxes here. You do get the SSR you do get the entire SSR costume for Ainz throughout the events and stuff like that. So you get the helmet here, pretty typical rewards. There is a new boss, so it's Riku Agane, which is the Silver Knight or White Knight. I'm not 100% sure, but this is one of the characters, obviously, from the show. He's going to be the event boss. He does put up this pretty crazy stance skill that just blocks a lot of damage dealt. I can't remember exactly what was going on with it, but it did make the character pretty tanky overall, and yeah, well, I need to skip forward a little bit, but he puts on the stance, and it makes him pretty hard to kill. He ends up sitting here for a while, which he's using a pretty bad team for this. You'll definitely want to bring in like a stance cancel unit or something, but looks like a pretty cool fight in general. From the fight itself, if you clear it 9 times, you'll get a Holy Relic box there, and you'll get one from the exchange shop as well. So there's the 4 boxes that you needed. Here's the other 2 set pieces from the Ainz SSR outfit or costume. So looking like pretty good rewards there. We do get an Overlord themed labyrinth, which is pretty cool. The one thing that I was really looking forward to, by the way, this little character guy, hilarious, love that. I was looking forward to, there was a hell costume that was leaked a while back, or like a week or 2 ago, that we all thought was going to be a labyrinth costume. It is unfortunately not a labyrinth costume, so there's not going to be a hell labyrinth costume, but later on they do show that there's a new hell costume for the Hawk Pass. So if you skip the Halloween costume like I did, and you're not planning on buying it, then you can just wait and get the Hawk Pass one whenever it comes to Global. Or if you're playing JP or whatever, it'll be tomorrow. But the exchange shop for the Labyrinth is actually kind of nice because it has the typical stuff. There's no new costume, of course, but there is a whole 3rd multis worth of tickets for the banner on this thing as well. So that's pretty cool. There's 3 free multis and 100 diamonds coming from this thing. And I think in the live stream they said that there's going to be some diamond rewards given out for different milestones and stuff. I think we hit the 60 million download celebration stuff. So they're planning on giving out a bunch of free materials as well. Chaos PvP is also coming back. This will be the second time that it's ran. The first time that it's returned. They said in the live stream that they were going to be changing some of the ways that it worked. The values of the characters are actually going to get updated each day. I assume on reset each day, which is pretty big considering that it reset each week last time, and it was really ruined on week 2 because of the fact that nobody was using the meta in week 1 because they were all too expensive, and then when week 2 rolled around, nobody used them week 1, so they were all really cheap, and it just made it really, really boring. So it should, hopefully, there's a couple of changes here. I'll probably go over these in the global patch notes when they come out because I'm probably going to read through the entirety of it. But yeah, we are getting Chaos PvP back, 100 diamonds on the line if you can be in the top 1%, which is pretty cool. But other than that, we do have the new costumes. We have Pope Ainz, and then Dark Knight Ainz, which is pretty cool. We have the Albedo costumes here. She has this cool clockwork one. She has this really skimpy one that I assume everyone will probably wear. And then for Shalltear, we have these right here. I like the red one quite a bit. Not really sure about this military-esque looking one. I don't even know if this would be considered military, but she also has a cool little wedding outfit. Cocytus, on the other hand, has some pretty cool outfits. He looks like a crab samurai in the first one, which is kind of cool, and then he has a steampunk one, and then sort of this white knight looking one, which is kind of cool. Here's the payback event, of course. Kind of cool that they are at least giving you a chance to grab an extra box if you need an older collab character's Holy Relic, which 4 new characters, I would imagine you're probably going to have to do maybe 2 rotations or so, unless you just get really lucky with your pulls to maybe try and guarantee all of them. Obviously, that's all luck-based, depends on, from person to person or whatever, but there's the materials you get out of the boxes, and yeah, here's just a little overview of where you get them if you needed that. Ainz, Albedo, and Shalltear are all 3 going to be able to be used as the login characters for the game during the collab, which is kind of cool, so it looks like they're going to automatically change throughout the weeks. So week 1 will be Ainz, week 2 is Albedo, and then week 3 is Shalltear. Obviously, they're bringing back a lot of the typical sort of collab/festival events. So the King Exchange is back, the booster stuff is going on again, and then we do have the new Hawk Pass. You can see right here the hell costume. Not 100% sure what the costume is supposed to be. There's a headband, and she has these pigtails, and you can see that there's a trophy. It looks like a basketball trophy maybe from the weapon, but you can't really see the outfit here, so I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure if this is a new Lizhawk costume. I don't think it is. I think this has been out once or twice before, but that is also coming back in the next Hawk Pass. There is a new battle event, and that's pretty much it. So honestly, it looks like a really, really nice update. Overall, everything seems to be pretty cool. I would say that, you know, the PvP and everything, we can maybe look at it for just a second, but they do go up against, basically, they pick a Hell Ragnarok unknown team versus a Overlord team, and surprisingly, I mean, you know, both teams are pretty tanky overall, I would say, but the Overlord Collab team seems to kind of take the cake a little bit, just because the the Albedo stance is pretty crazy. You can apply the stacks and everything from Ainz' passive, and you know, after you pop that, which I don't even think they ended up proccing the death passive or whatever, like that kills them instantly after a turn, but you know, just being able to put those stacks on, make them deal less damage, and then Ainz uses like some single targets from time to time to do some big damage is really cool. You can see Shalltear actually does some pretty good damage overall. I think this might be with her 50% increased attack stats, like while she's in Frenzy or whatever, but yeah, they do a lot of single target stuff. There are some AoEs, of course, on the characters. I think Ainz has one AoE, and then Shalltear is actually double AoE, so you can kind of use her moves. Actually, I don't think she is double AoE. I think there might be a translation error on the Shalltear one. I think one of them is a single target. I think it's the exploitation skill is a single target, and the other one is an AoE infect, of course. But yeah, not too many AoEs, so you're not going to be applying like a whole bunch of Hell passive stacks to yourself, which is obviously good. But I think the star of the show is that counter stance from Albedo, man. It's actually insane. But either way, that is pretty much it from me. If you want to stick around on the channel, feel free to subscribe, of course. I'm definitely interested in watching some of the Overlord, you know, showcases and stuff over the next couple of days from the JP people, and then we will definitely be trying it out when it comes to global. So if you want to see it on global stuff, if you aren't already tired of it by then, feel free to come by and watch the showcases and stuff like that. I am sure they will be fun, and we'll be doing live summons and everything when the banner drops and stuff. Should be a good time. But either way, thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe. I will see you guys later.